is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of another purge of the BS, sanctioned by the First Amendment. Frustration levels 0 to 100 have been authorized for use during this purge. All weapons are restricted. Government officials have not been granted immunity from the purge of the BS and shall undoubtedly receive the smoke. Commencing at the sound of the gong, any and all BS, especially unnecessary goofiness, will be purged without prejudice. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be available, but they will be busy because they too will be watching the purge of the BS. Blessed be those who have already been victims of some BS. May God be with you all.
Welcome once again to another Purge of the BS Thursday edition. Let's see if we got mods in the available building. I see we got IMZ is already here. Welcome to the silent but deadly episode of Purge of the BS. I want to thank everybody for all of the support that y'all been giving the channel. It's been a rough ride, but it's been a fun ride. So I'm glad y'all could be here for it. Now today, I'm just going to give y'all a heads up. As usual, we got to purge some BS. It's not going to be exactly the BS that you're expecting. We're going to take a little trip around the world. Because today we're asking the question in my mind, 2025, who actually cares about the public anymore? Like the regular people, who actually cares about them? I mean, we make a lot of choices and decisions, but at the end of the day, we all live here. So, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, share the live, jump in the chat, let me know where you're coming in from. See what we got here, multi-chat is up, Albon, Sergeant at Arms is in the building. I think we're about ready. Like I said, I ain't gonna give them too much time, got stuff to do today. So anyway, guys, let me help y'all understand something. I know y'all been paying attention to the news. I know you've been paying attention to this recent Obama situation. And maybe we'll touch on that. But I already called bullshit on that, so we'll see where it goes. But until it becomes non-BS, it's really not a topic to cover yet because it can't be effectively purged, okay? So as we get into that later, we'll get into it. But I know a lot of people want to talk about it, but at this point, it's still a lot of speculation. There's no charges. There's no real, nothing's going, ain't nobody raiding no houses. Like, it really ain't that serious right now. So we're not going to take a bunch of, but what I do want to do, which is a little different than normal, is as I said, I've been getting a little tired of America lately. And I don't mean the country as a whole. I mean, like, just the way that the media kind of segments us and boxes us all in, only lets us cover certain stories where we want to get reach, we want to get push. If you don't cover certain stories, they just won't. It's easy to tell who's behind what and when they're doing it. And for some of us, like over here at the Purge, we just fight through it. You're not going to tell us what to purge over here. That's not how it works, okay? So we're fortunate to have the forum, but we are not controlled or affiliated with any political party, so we get to have all the fun and give all the smoke. So in a recent story, now this is going to sound weird, but I had to bring it up. Because like I said, I took a trip around the world. I got bored with the stuff that was going on here for a second. I said, let me see what's really happening around the world. I do have a question, though. Is it okay to talk about Gaza yet? Without being considered an anti-Semite? Is it okay to talk about it yet? Maybe later. Because I got some stuff on that too. And I want to say it, but I already get in trouble for just being 100% real about actual problems. And anytime I do that, start to speak about certain groups, start to get in trouble. So I don't want to get in trouble too early in the episode, if that makes sense. So we're going to take our purge overseas, Thailand. Hope you guys are ready. Get on the plane here and take a trip. All right, so apparently police recently arrested a woman in Thailand who had somehow seduced some Buddhist monks. I don't know. Like I said, I saw the headline. I said, let me see what this is about. I heard 2 seconds of it and said, I'm going to bring it to the purge and see what y'all think about it. But apparently Buddhist monks are being seduced by women and then blackmailed. So check the story out. And hit the like button.
Thailand's Buddhist monastic order has been rocked by a sex scandal involving several high-ranking monks. They allegedly had an affair with the same woman and were then blackmailed for large sums of money. Police have now arrested that woman.
They had a pass-around monk lady. Okay. This is already getting interesting. Monks, aren't they supposed to be like celibate or something like that? I don't know. That's why I wouldn't want to. That wouldn't work for me.
Money. Police have now arrested that woman. CNA's Saksasaya Sombat reports.
The official 3 core tenets of Thailand are state, religion, and monarchy. And one of these tenets has now been severely rocked by a sex scandal involving a dozen of senior monks and millions of dollars in embezzled temple donations. Police have arrested a 35-year-old woman on Tuesday who allegedly developed sexual relationships with senior monks, only then to blackmail them. She's also being charged with money laundering and fraud. The exact number of monks implicated in this is not known yet, but according to local media, it could be as high as 15, spanning over several years. Authorities were alerted by the sudden resignation of an abbot of a well-known temple in Bangkok last month. What was initially investigated as a suspected mishandling of temple finances turned into a case of blackmail by that woman, allegedly revealing a pregnancy with that abbot and asked for over $220,000 in assistance. A total of $11.8 million circulated through her bank accounts, according to investigators, but only $250 are left on the account, with most of it spent on online gambling. Police have found tens of thousands of images and videos.
Hold up, the monks had the woman giving them sex, and they were doing an illegal gambling ring. Okay. All right. Monks was putting in work over there, huh?
Clips on her mobile phones. She also has several children, allegedly from some of those former monks. According to one of the lead investigators, this could be unraveling even further.
นี่คือการวางแผนนะครับที่เราจะทำคดีนี้เนี่ยให้หมดจดที่สุดนะครับทำให้มันโปร่งใสแล้วก็ถือว่าเราจะกวาดล้างนะครับกระบวนการลักษณะอย่างนี้ซึ่งอาจจะเป็นแค่จุดๆหนึ่งเนี่ยให้มากที่สุด
The monks involved have been defrocked, which means they're getting kicked out of the monastic order.
Hold on a second now. Hold on. I got to pause it here for a second. Now, if this woman was getting it in with 20 different monks at the same spot, right? Or what do they have, a vow of silence? They couldn't talk to each other about this? She's got multiple kids by the monks and then decided to blackmail the monks. That's not the tiger style, Al. That's the snake. That's the snake style right there. So I'm guessing maybe the vow of silence kept them from talking about how this person was a pass around. I don't know. I feel like there's a lack of communication between the monks. I feel like the monks should have been talking amongst themselves, right? And should have been a little bit more. I don't know. It just seems. Just saying. You got like multiple kids by the dudes in the mosaic in the monastic order. Sounds crazy. Sounds absolutely nuts.
In this footage, we see one of those taking off their orange textiles and changing into simple white clothes, praying in front of his colleagues as a sign of atonement before then leaving the temple as a civilian. An overwhelming majority of Thais are followers of Theravada, one of the more stricter branches of Buddhism. Thai monks have to follow a strict celibacy code that forbids them from any physical contact with women, let alone any intimacy. They're also supposed to live a very simple life with very few worldly attachments or possessions. And yet, scandals involving Buddhist monks behaving badly or falling for worldly temptations, they are pretty common. Whether it's senior abbots abusing their power, sex scandals, the sale of dubious religious relics, or the embezzlement of millions of dollars of temple funds, those scandals bubble up to the surface very regularly. That undermines the monastic order that is supposed to be moral role models in Thai society. That is partially why young Thais are literally falling out of faith with Buddhism, judging by less young men getting ordained.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at the situation. I'm laughing at the fact that this sounds like American problems with religious leaders being dirty, but it's over in Thailand. So it's kind of like the devil don't stop in America. The devil is all over the place with temptation and so on and so forth. And even the most disciplined people, the Buddhist monk people, are swayed by the power of the P and the power of gambling addiction. Like, what the hell, man? All right, I'll let them finish their last minute here, but I'm just saying it's cool to me. I hate to say it, it's kind of cool to see other people have a similar problem just in their culture, with religious leaders not being 100% right. You know, these guys took a vow of celibacy. That in itself is an issue. Like, you can't get married and have, you know, a lady and y'all create. Well, apparently these guys were creating kids, so I guess that wasn't. This is like Muslims eating ham sandwiches for breakfast. You see what I'm saying? It's like everything that they're supposed to stand on is exactly what they're going against. Meanwhile, they're teaching people to do everything they're supposed to stand on. It's freaking ridiculous. Anyway.
As monks, either indefinitely or at least for a short period as a rite of passage. With less personnel, that in turn leaves more and more temples, especially in rural areas, empty, robbing communities of a spiritual anchor in their lives. That is a problem that the authorities have seen for quite some time now, and the latest scandal is spurring them into action. The National Office of Buddhism, the civilian government agency on Buddhist affairs, so to speak, they are preparing an amendment that would criminalize sexual affairs between lay people and Buddhist monks. However, it remains to be seen whether or not this will be enough for Thai people to regain confidence in the Buddhist faith.
Okay, so who's breaking the law? He said it's against the law, like to the I guess if you do it to a monk, knowing that it's a monk, it's against the law, according to them. So that's interesting. That's an interesting take on it. But I will say this: the devil don't have a religion or a faith that he prefers. He prefers to go around the world and corrupting and tempting whoever he can. That is literally in the Bible. It's in the first part of the Bible. That's his job. So he doesn't care if you're American or, in this case, Taiwanese or Thailandese or whatever that is. What's Thailand? Thailandian? Whatever their thing is. Doesn't matter if you're that. Doesn't matter if you're Caucasian or any of that. The devil will take you where you at. Okay, so even if you're a Buddhist monk with a sworn celibacy, a succubus will basically infiltrate the entire unit, end up having multiple kids with different monks, and then turn around and blackmail the entire monk group and get paid off of it. So they did arrest the lady. So you know what? I do believe she should have been arrested, because at the end of the day, what she did was absolutely diabolical. Not saying the monks were right, but you gotta imagine if you can't get none and somebody just throwing it around the freaking the temple, you know, you'll probably be asking for forgiveness from Buddha or whoever, but it's gonna be hard, man. It is gonna be hard. Yeah, you're right. They exist. They exist everywhere. There's some diabolical women and men everywhere. And I just think that's crazy to decide, I'm gonna run through the mosque. I'm gonna run through the Mosaic or whatever, Mosaic order. That's and then I'm gonna blackmail them because they got a gambling operation. Like, that is just diabolical. But I gotta respect it though. Got to respect it. So, we have next. What do we have next? That's a hell of a way to start the day right there, huh? All right, so secondarily, we have, oh, that's interesting. I don't know if you guys followed the YSL trial, but apparently the lawyer is now up for charges. My boy told me to look out for this, so that must be why this is coming down. But apparently the lawyer for YSL in that case apparently was involved in some nefarious dealings, and they're basically going to be pulling her up on charges. Didn't YSL guys get off? How you going to get the people off and then you go to jail as the lawyer? That's got to be tripping right there. All right, so let me see what we got. Check this. I'm sorry, how you the attorney and you get the client off and then you got to go to jail? Sorry, guys. Here we go. I got you. First of all, the look on this lady's face is exactly how I feel right now, which is how you the lawyer and you get somebody, get the people off, right? And then you go to jail for like what you were doing while you were being their lawyer. This is hilarious. Let me see what we got.
Now new at 6 o'clock, a defense attorney in the YSL gang case now faces criminal charges herself. Lawyer Nicole Fagan was indicted on multiple charges today. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie is live for us in the Fulton County Courthouse. And Mark, the charges include allegations that she tipped off a fugitive about evidence to get rid of.
And this is a fast-developing story. I reached out to Drew Finling, the defense attorney for defense attorney Nicole Fagan, and I just got this text from him a short while ago. He said, this indictment is a travesty. Nicole Fagan is a fierce trial attorney and well-respected amongst her peers. These charges stem from activities alleged to have occurred 2.5 years ago during the YSL trial.
All right, hold on.
Stop you right there. I want you to do it again, but this time, pull it way back.
Okay, sure, you got it.
All right, this guy is so animated about this story. He's like, it's just breaking out. We gotta talk about it. He is very, look at his.
And this is a fast-developing story. I reached out to Drew Finling, the defense attorney for defense attorney Nicole Fagan, and I just got this text from him a short while ago.
Defense attorney
He
is a
said,
defense
this
attorney.
indictment is a travesty. Nicole Fagan is a fierce trial attorney and well-respected amongst her peers. These charges stem from activities alleged to have occurred 2.5 years ago during the YSL trial, for which Ms. Fagan was a zealous advocate for her client. No more. We look forward to fighting these false allegations. Well, here's some insight into what those allegations are.
Defense lawyer Nicole Fagan is well known in local legal circles for her effective representation of alleged gang members, often when they are charged with violating Georgia's Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, says J.P. Miller, who told us he knows her from both sides of the street, having worked against her when he was a gang investigator with the Fulton County DA's office and consulted with her now that he's a private investigator.
She has a great reputation on the street and with her clients.
I'm sure she does.
She has been successful in receiving several not guilty and acquittal cases.
I'm sure she has.
But now an indictment, which also contains allegations against 2 co-defendants, charges Nicole Fagan herself with violation of the Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act and other charges. For example, the gang charge against her alleges she unlawfully solicited a fugitive in a gang murder case to commit criminal gang activity through the commission of the offense of tampering with evidence. A criminal solicitation charge suggests she unlawfully solicited a person by that same name, a 4PF gang member that was a fugitive in a 4PF gang murder case, to get rid of his phone with the intent to obstruct the prosecution of someone else. Another count accuses Fagan and another person of the offense of obtain/procure/give inmate prohibited item without authorization. It alleges they did unlawfully give to Tenquarius Mender, an inmate of the Fulton County Jail, a place of incarceration,
They say Tenquarius. I keep telling folks about these names, and I'm not going to say it again, but Tenquarius, I wonder what that means. It probably means inmate, whatever length. So she gave some inmates, allegedly, gave some inmates methamphetamines in the facility. That's a pretty, they don't like that one. The lawyers that bring in the stuff, they don't like that, because you're supposed to be on the right side of the law as a lawyer. So, yeah, they definitely don't like that. And apparently she had a accomplice here, a Brittany Erica. I'm reading it right. A Brittany Erica. Or how about Ty Erica? I don't care. It's along the lines of Tenquarius. So Tenquarius and T. Erica they probably had a thing. Question in the chat is, what are you supposed to do if your mother names you? What you do is you wait till you're 18 and you change it and go move to another state where nobody knew you as Tenquarius. Okay? Now, you may have well, honestly, with a name like Tenquarius, you're probably going to be a football player anyway. So people will know you. Or he probably was going to be a football player, but then he decided to be a felon, because it's like one or the other when you like Tenquarius. But yeah, so the lawyer brought drugs into the thing, tipped off a couple of folks about evidence they needed to get rid of, and what else?
Amphetamine. Still another count mentions the prohibited item offense, only this time involving the illegal drug oxycodone.
Oh, my
and yet
God.
another count alleges something similar involving marijuana.
You know, I've worked with her on both sides, and she's always been a pleasure to work with.
Now, a court document that we obtained indicates Nicole Fagan was Mender's defense lawyer. It indicates in that case he pled guilty to possession of weapon by incarcerated individual, possession of telecommunications device by incarcerated individual, and participation in criminal street gang activity. That last charge as an Alford plea, which I understand means he does not admit that he did it, but that it was in his best interest to plead guilty. There's much more on this that we're digging into. For now, reporting live, Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action News.
First of all, Mark Winnie.
Allegations against 2 co-defendants.
Mark Winnie is awesome, by the way. I like his energy. But let's talk about this, because this sounds pretty damning. If these things stick, this young lady is probably going to end up in jail. While she got the people off that she was, you know, there's a set group of people in the world that just do stupid stuff. Why do you need, how much are you not making as a lawyer that you would think that putting drogas into the system, contraband, okay, that's what they call it contraband charge, is not going to be problematic. And you're doing this repeatedly, and you got an accomplice, and you coming there to do lawyer visits with somebody you're not even really representing at the time. So, you know, I feel like, hey, you get what the hell you get on that one. Like, you probably could have done better with yourself, not done that, and had a better outcome. In this case, you going to jail. You going to jail. As Robin Williams would say.
Yeah, gotta go.
Gotta go.
That's it.
Shit, yeah. Okay, that's it. You gotta go. Can't represent nobody. You'd probably be a good jailhouse lawyer. You'd be able to help people out with their paperwork and habeas corpus writs and all that kind of stuff. So go do your time, because that's coming. She's going to jail. So done with her. All right. Make sure I got folks on here. I think I can only see one of the chats. Oh, now we got a strong stream, but no push today. Make sure you hit that like button, and make sure you check us out at www.freemansvcs.org. That's freemanservices.org/shop. You can check out all our merch over there. Support the channel. Support your local creators. Support independent media, because this is where the real shit. So let's get our next. Okay, so I guess because we were talking about YSL, now we're going to YN. Oh, this is not going to be a super long episode today. It's going to be we are running through it.
Police say more than 200 teenagers descended on.
Oh, God. Okay, so they're doing this new thing. Where apparently teenagers go to a public pool, but they like mob the public pool. And I guess they do it to get viral content, good pictures. I'm not really sure why they're doing it. I don't know what they're doing. Or I understand that you like to go to the pool. I like to go to the pool. I'm a pool kind of person, but I think this might be a. So let me bring the story over here. There. Okay. All right. Some new trend. Don't blame me.
Police say more than 200 teenagers descended on this public pool outside of Chicago earlier this month, as these flash mobs of hundreds of teens are causing businesses and public areas across the nation to close.
Go home. Property is closed.
Go home. Property is closed. I set off fireworks out here. 12:31. Can you send me 5 more cars, please? I need 5 more cars to Sunset Pool. Everybody out here going to jail. Everybody out, or you're going to jail.
Our next guest says it can be explained because.
Hold on. All right. So here's the thing. It's a public space. I see what they're trying to do here. It's a public space. So you could show up and pay, $5 or whatever the cost is to get into this pool. But similar to a building, most community pools will have a capacity limit. And if you bring a few hundred people with you, not knowing who's already there, that might be a problem. I'm not really sure why these folks are doing this, but if you say to your parents, hey, I'm going to the pool, and you're a teenager, most times the parents will say, fine. They're not even going to think twice about the fact that you might be involved in a flash mob of teens going to take over a pool. So this is going to be a tough one to stop. Let me just say that. This is going to be a tough one to prevent. If they want to show up, it's a public space. They can be denied when they get there, but you can't tell them they can't come. So let's see what this guy has to say.
Because this generation of teenagers has been raised as the me generation. Joining us now is family therapist, former high school counselor for 25 years, and author of Raising Healthy Teenagers, Tom Kirsting. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming on.
That's my pleasure.
So what do you mean by that, the me generation?
So I see this at my gym, Ainsley, right? So if you go up to a machine and there's a young person on their phone and they're sitting there taking up the space, and you go up to them and say, oh, excuse me, I'm almost done with the machine, they give you an attitude.
Right.
So it's a lot of, this generation, the trophy generation, the instant gratification generation, they are so accustomed to having everything they want when they want it that you become entitled.
Right. I mean, what do we do about this? Because what's happening is it's spreading on social media. They find out everyone congregate at this pool. They're bringing alcohol, they're bringing vapes and cigarettes, and then the police have to get involved because 300 people will show up.
That's the other part of it. So social media, this whole culture has become a social media-driven culture. And young kids, they're taking videos of all this stuff, right, just so they could chase those likes and those streaks and this and that. Furthermore, with social media, the more that you're exposed to things that are, unruly or criminal-like behavior, the more your brain begins to normalize that. You don't see it as a big deal. So like 200 kids showing up at a pool and being unruly, to them, they're entitled, number one.
Right.
I'm not sure what's going on in their households, but there's certainly not, rigid rules and so forth. And they also just don't see it as there being anything wrong, because who cares about everybody else? It's about me.
Right, right. This happened in Illinois. There were the 200, 300 teens that showed up at that public pool. Out on Long Island, 500 teenagers showed up at a beach. There were fights, overcrowding, a shooting, and then the beach had to close. 300 teens showed up at a shopping center in Brentwood, California. There were fights, knocking items off the shelves. So you say this is a cultural breakdown. What can we do as parents to teach our children to avoid these areas because it could end up in danger? Or
I'm just going to say this. I'm going to give these folks props for not, even though every video that they're showing is predominantly black people, they did not keep the problem just in that group. They said kids, they said teenagers, they used a certain generation name. So yeah, I'm gonna give them props for how they're handling that. That's all I'm gonna say. Because they, the one dude was talking about the gym, and that could be anybody. Talking about kids giving you attitude because they're used to getting things. That could be. That's not relegated to just a certain social group. So I like the fact that they did that. A lot of people in the comments, they go in and talk about it's always black people. It's not. It's just there's probably some salt sprinkled among the pepper in these videos. I just can't see it with all of the blackness. But what I'm saying is there's an issue across the board. It's not just one group of teenagers. It's a whole generation of people that really think that they're, one, more entitled than they should be, two, that they're peers with their parents. That whole thing got messed up. Calling their parents by first names and stuff like that. Shit is crazy to me. So anyway,
500 teenagers showed up at a beach. There were fights, overcrowding, a shooting, and then the beach had to close. 300 teens showed up at a shopping center in Brentwood, California. There were fights, knocking items off the shelves. So you say this is a cultural breakdown. What can we do as parents to teach our children to avoid these areas because it could end up in danger, or how to treat adults when you are confronted?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, it starts in the household, right? And we got to get back to a culture where families are having dinner together, where we're teaching our kids about things like faith, integrity and values, right, and guiding them. Because essentially what they're doing is a reflection of what we're doing or not doing. So it's got to start there. And also, I've written books about this stuff. Right. You have to delay all of the social media, all that stuff, all that superficial stuff that kids are consuming, and it's becoming their reality. We got to delay that, till like late adolescence, the earliest.
Right. Why do you think this generation is that way? I know I'm a parent. I parent differently than my parents do. Is it because we were spanked, we were disciplined so much that maybe we're more lenient on our children?
Yeah, well, it's definitely that. Like I talked about the trophy generation and like.
I'm gonna stop you right there. It is not necessarily just that. There is a group of people that are like, okay, my parents did this, you know, they were too harsh, so I'm gonna just let my kids do whatever. There's that part of it. But there's also the fear as a parent that you're not allowed to necessarily discipline your kids. You say something to them and they get upset, now you're emotionally damaging them. If you spank them, now you're physically abusing them. So it becomes this whole thing where the parents are afraid to do the job of parenting because they don't have time to be getting arrested for no BS. So I hear what the lady's saying, and I'm not denying that there's a group of people who just let their kids do whatever and don't care. But what I'm saying is there's also a segment that has attempted to discipline and gotten in trouble, and so they did like this. They take their hands off, and then you get what the hell you get out of the society that we have. So I'm just going to be honest. I know way more parents that are now afraid to do anything or say anything to these kids because the second you do, now you're looking at some charges. Where back in the day, we used to get tapped by the teachers at school. They had a yardstick, and they would smack the hell out of you in the ass or hand, depending on how they felt that day. And you learn to not do whatever the hell it was you was just doing by that form of discipline. So I'm not against discipline. I'm not. I'm definitely not against it. I believe that a deserved ass whooping is perfectly fine in this world. And a lot of people need them in order to better guide themselves in life. Things should have consequences. And if you learn consequences early, then you're able to sometimes avoid them, but other times just accept the consequences and just go head first into whatever it is and not be a baby about it, which is also what happens. You know, kids know they be wrong. Then the second you do something or say something, now you the bad guy. When they're the ones that were doing something wrong and you had to say something about it. The world is twisted. Anyway, I'll let this guy finish it.
You know, I remember when I worked at the high school, this happened more than once. A student would curse out a teacher. What? And a parent would come in and say, well, what did the teacher do to make my child curse at them?
The teacher was always right in my house.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
So that has really flipped. And, you know, we really, you know, I'm concerned because we really need to get back to the foundation, the roots, and what is important with family. And that includes us parents. Right. So oftentimes we're not aware of it, but we're absent. You know, we're on our devices ourselves, you know, for hours and hours a day. We need to be present for our kids. And we have to have that family dinner, you know, come back.
All right, Tom, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Tom. That was awesome. I would like to say I appreciate Tom's take on this, and Tom has earned a Purge applause. I approve. I approve of Tom's message. The teens that are part of Generation Me, which is what we're calling it now, Generation Me, do not think about others. And the ones that do go a little bit too crazy about who they're thinking about. They're normally focused on something that's not even localized to them, like they're straight and they're fighting for trans rights, that kind of thing. They're totally in a different lane than the lane that they should be driving in. So, an interesting one. But here's the thing, guys. Like Tim said, it comes down to the parenting. So if the kids don't care, to some degree, it does reflect on the fact that the parents don't care. And if the kids are too entitled and think too much of themselves, it's because the parents haven't humbled them. You know, it was okay when my pops told me, you know what, you're not that good at that. Get better. Wasn't a whole bunch of participation trophies and shit back then. You had to win. When we ran track, I remember I ran track, you used to have to, they had track ribbons, I want to say all the way up to like 8th place. And there's only 8 lanes on the track. That was the original participation trophy. You could get up to 8th place as a ribbon. Now, granted, as the 8th place person, maybe the first time you got it, you were like, cool, I got a ribbon. But then you saw all of the other people with the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th ribbons, and you're like, you know what? I want one of those. This 8th place ribbon sucks. And so you compete, you work harder, and you get to that 1st place, 2nd place, or 3rd place eventually. But if everybody just got the same ribbon as the person that won the race, then what's the point in running? Where's the competition? We need competition, but it's got to be healthy. It's got to be healthy competition. But we need competition in this world in order for us to excel. If everybody's complacent, then nobody's going to move forward, and then everybody's just kind of stuck in one level, and then the ones that decide to level up, they run the whole thing. And they'll keep everybody else from being able to run the whole thing because you don't have the kind of drive they got. So there's definitely a problem. It's a societal problem, but it's not just American. We already saw some monks getting distracted by coochie. And they're supposed to be real spiritual types. They can't even help themselves. So we got teenagers, they can't help themselves. We got monks, they can't help themselves. So what are we supposed to do? We got to help ourselves. Let me bring this back over. That's all I'm saying. We got to help each other. Help ourselves. Probably the best way to say it. Folks. All right. Let's get to it. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to get into our political segment, so to speak. But I'm going to take a little spin on it. I'm going to start with the story that's been trending regarding an idea to change the name of the Kennedy Center and name it after the First Lady, Melania Trump. Now, let me just say initially and on the surface, I don't think that's a good idea because I don't see the point. That's literally what my thing is. I don't see the point. Can we not build her a building or make a foundation in her name or something like that? Do we have to rename something to, like, honor her? I don't know. Maybe I'm different, but I just think that maybe I thought that America liked Kennedys a little bit more than that. And surprised Robert Kennedy, isn't he part of Trump's group? Surprised he's not saying anything. So I'm gonna let this ad run. This ad running. While I'm doing that, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share this. But I want to know your thoughts in the comments as to whether or not you think that renaming the Kennedy Center after Melania Trump is a good idea, or if it is a bad idea, or if it is what I would consider some bullshit. Bring it over to you. Going to show me another ad. It's going to show me another damn. You know what? All right, fine. I got to wait for this ad to run. I'm sorry, guys. All right. It's really not letting me skip the stupid ad. Hold on a second. Oh, so they already voted on it once, and it's got a majority vote already.
Yes, we renamed the Opera House at the Kennedy Center for the First Lady, who is the honorary chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Kennedy Center. This designation is an excellent way to recognize her support and commitment to promoting the arts.
second. They said one section of the Kennedy. Y'all see that? Republicans snuck in, I think, something that's slightly divisive, which is naming one section of the Kennedy Center after a family member of this. Well, technically, the Kennedy Center is named after a member of the current administration because one of the Kennedys is part of the administration. But I think this is part of the bullshit because I feel differently about if they have a section in the Kennedy Center that's dedicated to her. That's not a big deal. But the story I initially got was that they're renaming the whole thing. The Kennedy Opera House itself. Now, maybe they rename, I guess, the auditorium after her or something. I don't know. But that's now I feel wronged because the story I got was different than what seems to really be going on. That is how the bullshit starts. All right, well, that doesn't have as much fat as I thought it did. What I heard was that they was renaming the whole situation after her, which to me seems stupid. Now, if they're just putting something up in there or a particular section or a museum part or something or whatever, I care less. I honestly cared less about the whole thing in the first place, but now I care even less. Because now that is definitely some bullshit. I don't really want to hear that's a stupid. So what if they give a section to one of the first ladies? You know, whether I like her or not, she's still the first lady. If they want to put a section in the damn Kennedy Opera House and call it the Melania Trump section or the Melania Theater or whatever they want to call something, I don't care. I don't care. I thought I cared. Sorry, guys. I thought I cared. Well, the true thing is, I don't believe that people should have things named after them if they haven't done anything significant. But I believe that sometimes vanity projects take over. And that's a vanity project. You know, Trump is a guy, got a wife, and he's like, in my opinion, I think he's just trying to impress his wife. Because she won't sleep with him. So maybe he's trying to get some of that Melania moisture back. And he's decided, hey, baby, I can name a building after you or name a whatever after you. I mean, that's something most guys can't do. So maybe that's what it's all about. It doesn't seem to have a real point to me, but I believe it as a distraction from the greater good of what's actually going on. So let's just be honest about that. She hasn't done anything that I could think of yet that warrants a building being named after her, but she wears nice hats. I mean, isn't that all you have to do these days? You wear nice hats and you get a building or some part of a building. You know, it's not going to be the bathroom. You know, there'll be a wing named after her. So she's going to get a wing at the Kennedy Center. So I think we can let this story go. Okay. Going to get a wing. They're not renaming the whole thing. I get it. See how they get you all riled up about one thing and you find out, oh, it's not even that. It's this. And then it's like, well, I'm not as mad about that because to me, it didn't really matter much in the first place. So then you dumb it down another level. Now I really don't give a, you know the word. So to answer your question in the chat, Al Bond, the question is, what has she done? Well, at some point, she was in a bed with naked Donald Trump. Not saying that deserves a building, but that deserves some understanding. You know what I'm saying? At minimum, get a woman something, because that's got to be rough. It's got to be tough. You know, Trump's not a young dude anymore. I'm sure things are loose and spotted. So Melania Trump deserves something, an award or something. for having to deal with that. Okay. Well, since we're in that area now, get into it. Because I wanted to touch on something the media is currently pushing at us regarding the recent deal made with Japan. Freshman. And what you may not know, or you may know, I don't know if you pay attention or not, but what you may not know is that Trump has made a deal with Japan for $550 billion to be invested in infrastructure and AI, and also made a 15% tariff for Japanese imports. Current tariff is 25%. So, in a way, the thought would be that this will at least bring down some prices domestically. One of the other things that happened as a result of this is Japan's auto market, like the Japanese, are now going to be able to sell American cars in Japan. Now, I'm sure there are a few people that would hear that and think, great, we can sell American cars in Japan. Let's just be honest, folks. American cars don't sell as well as Japanese cars in America. So I would venture to say that they're probably not going to be very popular in Japan. I'm just saying. So I know a lot of people don't want to admit that, but Japanese cars run better. They're normally cheaper. They get better gas mileage. Other than my American muscles, you know, the Dodge Challengers and stuff like that, maybe a Corvette. You know, there's a few American-made models I like. But in a general sense, we buy more foreign cars than we do American cars. We buy way more foreign cars. You go on any road in America, maybe in the Midwest it might be different, but at least on the East Coast and the West Coast, down south, you know, Mississippi, them kind of places, man, you're going to see a whole bunch of, what they call them, rice cars. And speaking of rice, they're also opening up the rice market to American rice. Now, I would also venture to say Japanese people probably don't have an interest in American rice. Why? Because they're Japanese and they make rice all the time. Been doing it for generations. So what do they need our rice for? And it's probably going to be more expensive because it's a damn tariff. So we're probably going to be like, no, we got gourmet rice. We got gourmet rice. So you're going to have to send gourmet rice over. So whatever. I'm going to take y'all to the clip. And because I was getting some mixed ideas from American media, I decided to check overseas media about how they felt about the trade deal because I wanted to know.
U.S. President Donald Trump.
So I went to Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera. Yeah, I don't really play around with the news, but I knew that mainstream in America news, you can't trust half the shit they saying. You don't know who paid for it. You don't know who leaked the story on purpose to get everybody upset or happy about certain things. So I went to the foreign news for this one because I needed to know, is Trump's U.S.-Japan trade deal a good deal? And if it is a good deal, who is it a good deal to? That was the question. So, give me a second here. I'm going to bring this on over. And y'all can answer that. Y'all can answer how you feel. Is the deal with Japan, from what you know, is it a good deal? Like I said, there's 15% tariff, so the tariff is down from 25%. They've opened up the auto market over to American cars and vehicles and American products in general being able to be sold in Japan, as opposed to just us buying their stuff, which is what we've always done. Now they're opening up their markets to us. I told y'all how I feel about that, but I'm just saying y'all can make a decision as to whether or not you. So let's check it out. All right.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the U.S. has reached a trade deal with Japan. Trump says the agreement will see Japan invest $550 billion in the country and that both countries will each pay a tariff of 15% on goods. The full details of the deal are yet to be released.
But I just signed the largest trade deal in history, I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan. And that was done with Japan. They had their top people here, and we worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that. But we're doing really well as a country. We're strong. We have a lot of money flowing in. The tariffs are kicked in better than anybody other than me and a few of the people in the room thought could happen.
Sejiro Takashita is Dean at the University of Shizuoka's Graduate School of Management, Informatics and Innovation, and he's joining us from Shizuoka in Japan. Great to see you. Thank you for your time. So U.S. tariffs will go from 25 to 15%, and that 15% will be reciprocal. Do you think that's a good deal overall?
No, it's not a good deal at all. People are focusing on numbers. You can see the Japanese market rising very sharply on back of this because many people had anticipated 25%, and that's been reduced to 15. But this is the game, that poker game that, the Trump delegates are playing. Be it 25, 15, or 5%, if there is no context or reasoning to it, then it should be abolished. For example, automobile. Japan has zero tariff against American cars, and he's constantly claiming that we're not buying American cars. Well, it's nothing to do with the United States, but simply, U.S. cars are not good enough for the Japanese. It doesn't match, the Japanese consumers. That's all it is. But, to basically just only looking at numbers is what people are doing right now. And what we have to also be alarmed about is that what he's saying or writing about could change the other day 180 degrees. So let's see more detail about the whole scheme is what I'd like to say.
Yeah, we are all waiting for those details, including Prime Minister Ishiba. Yeah. But if we look at automobiles, they are a huge part of U.S.-Japan trade. Almost all of it, like you said, is one way from the U.S. importing cars from Japan, and that's a fact that's long irked Trump. Do you see this deal changing the direction of that trade at all?
Well, his bullying will go through, but I don't think Japanese consumers will be happy buying American cars. The fact is, the Japanese buy, for example, German cars a lot. They're all doing very well in Japan because they make good cars.
He's saying what I just said. He's saying what I just said. I think opening the market it makes sense, like it sounds good. But why would Japanese people buy American-made cars when we buy way more of their stuff and we have the American cars right here with no tariff on them? And we still choose to go buy a Nissan or a Toyota or whatever, right? Like, that's crazy. I mean, I see what the point is, but what about other products? Maybe we have some other products that Japanese people might like, clothing or something like that we make over here. Oh, sorry, we have all of our sweatshops overseas and in Taiwan and stuff. So we don't have that either. So I'm going to tell you right now, I would suffice to say that there is going to be zero increase in American-made cars being actually sold in Japan if they have to ship them over there. Meanwhile, they got cars that are half the price. You know what we charge for a car. You might have to pay $50,000 for a Ford F-150 just for a basic pickup truck. I mean, it's got Bluetooth in it, but you get my point. It's a very expensive truck. But just a pickup truck. Japanese people don't really drive pickup trucks and stuff. They're not into like big, huge vehicles and gas guzzlers. They're into things that are smaller, move through the traffic a little bit better because they got a whole bunch of traffic over there. They ride scooters and shit. So maybe we need to send some Harleys over there or something, like a little Harleys. That's an American-made company or Indian or something. Maybe we can do that. Maybe we can sell, Triumph motorcycles over there. I don't know. But cars, yeah, I don't see y'all getting much of that. Sorry. That just, and rice. Cars and rice. That's what they wanted us to be excited about. The cars, they got all the cars over there. And rice, man, their grass is rice. The hell they need us to ship rice over there for? Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about.
and Japanese consumers are very, very sensitive and picky. So, I think, that is the conclusion. I think, however, that said, his bullying may open up some of the negativity of Japan, the vested interest involved in issues like, for example, rice and meat, where, there is an unjustified, unfair tariff against the United States, protected by vested interest of the likes of JA, Japan Agricultural Corporate. So that could be, changed through constructive destruction of a vested interest through his, methodology that he's adopting to the Japanese trade policies.
And as you said, the Japanese stocks did rally as a result of this announcement. You're saying it's because the market was expecting perhaps 25%, and so 15% seems like a good compared to that. But do you think that Prime Minister Ishiba will be able to sell this to the Japanese people?
That's a good question because, well, as you know, in the upper house election, it was a devastating loss for the LDP, the ruling party. And a lot of it is being pointed at, Mr. Ishiba's lack of leadership. And, having negotiation in the United States is very difficult in the first place. Now he has to go through the second hurdle of convincing the Diet as a whole in agreeing to this plan. So that is also becoming very, very difficult. So he has a very, very difficult task ahead. And in fact, even within LDP, there are voices rising quite sharply about, his resignation. So the stability of the political issues in Japan are becoming very, very wobbly, to say the least.
Okay. All right. So we get it. So that's one piece of it, but that's the part that they have a lot of folks focused on. But I want you to take a look at the number on the bottom of it. They are investing $550 billion into United States infrastructure and AI. That is the play. That is the money. Trump is not worried so much about the automotive industry. Why? Because it's had to survive without Japan up until now. Where the money is in the investment into AI infrastructure. And we have gone over AI infrastructure when it comes to data centers and the fact that they are currently polluting the shit out of the earth. Okay, well, let's just be honest. Let's just be honest, because nobody's talking about that. So we'll talk about it, okay? We'll talk about it here on Purge the BS, because I think you guys should understand the conversation is not in cars, okay? Conversation is not in cars. The conversation is about that AI shit. And yes, I said AI. I know I'm not supposed to say that word on the channel, but we are already an hour into the episode, so if they cut me now, so what, right? We went over the emissions. They use diesel engines to cool these data centers, and they have to huge amounts of basically gasoline and petrol to do this. And then, of course, it expels stuff into the air and then pollutes the area around it, right? And if you didn't know, this practice has existed in multiple industries for multiple years. And special shouts to Adrian Kennedy stopping in the chat. Looks like he dropped in some bad news, says RIP Hulk Hogan. I'm not sure if that's 100% true yet, but I can find out. But rest in peace, Hulk Hogan, if that's true. Icon from my childhood. So, and they always bothered Hulk Hogan. That man came back in that ring like 65 last time he was fighting. It was crazy. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. So I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about something that's already a problem that we are adding to with this deal, okay? And I'm just going to be honest, this is our last segment, but this is a little bit more, this is for the nerds, okay? You know how sometimes we do the nerd segment? This is a nerd segment. Definitely a nerd. Bring this back. Yeah, Japan's not going to buy no American-made cars. American-made cars don't last that long. And they pollute and all types of stuff. Like I said, I love some of them, the muscle cars. I love those. I love my Corvettes and my Challengers and even the Charger a little bit, even though everybody has one now. But, I like those cars. But, like the Chevy bolts and shit. Like, boo. Who wants that? Why would Japan buy that? They're not going to buy that shit. They're not going to buy it. Don't ship it over there. It's a waste. They need Carvana, and then maybe, you know, they order it and something like that. But for real, in order to compete with the Japanese market, you got to lower your prices. And if you lower the prices for people buying them in Japan, I want a lower price over here. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, that's not the discussion. The discussion is infrastructure, fossil fuels, and AI. And that's where the money is going. That $550 billion is going to be invested in AI data centers, fossil fuel mining and refining. You know, remember drill, baby, drill? Remember that? Remember that? Yeah. That's part of that. It's just, to us, all they started talking about was cars and freaking rice and not making it make sense. Like, if I hear $550 billion, I want to know where it's going because, you know, I would love to hold something. I would love to hold something. I love big women. Thank you for stopping into the chat there. I appreciate you stopping in here. So, came in at a good time. Because the silent but deadly title that this particular episode has is in reference to the $550 billion in through the trade deal. America can't sell cars in Japan like that. So that's not really going to help American car makers. And American car makers still have tariffs on aluminum and stuff coming from Mexico and Canada so that they can make their products here in America. So it's like the Japanese are getting a better deal than the American auto worker. Hey, don't blame me. I just report the news. But numbers-wise, the Japanese automaker is getting a much better deal than the American automaker, who's already struggling and has had to be bailed out by the federal government before. So I think if they would have put more into American automotives, maybe helping with some of the issues that we have that make us unable to compete with the Japanese when it comes to automotives. I mean, just take the parts out of their cars, get the big brains, dissect it, add a little something different, call it your own, and repackage it. That's what we've been doing for years. Why they can't seem to do that with cars, I'm not sure. I am not sure. They still haven't figured the car thing out. Yeah, but this is the best deal. But the best deal maker is Donald Trump. So he made a deal that, in a way, it sounds good on the surface. I'm not going to lie to you, it does. But when you start to dig into the weeds a little bit, you're kind of like, I don't like where this is going. I don't like where this is going. And if you're getting $550 billion for America to do infrastructure work, there's probably some contracts and kickbacks involved, to which Donald Trump may have some vested interest in. I'm not going to say it's not possible. What I am going to say is it's going to harm the people far more than it's going to harm any debt that we have or help us get out of a debt. And I'll tell you why. Because all of our manufacturing and refining is basically killing people. Yes, I said it. So if YouTube wants to hit me for that later, fine. But that's what's happening. And I'm going to bring this story over to you because I need you to focus outside of what they want us to see. What they want us to see is we can sell rice to Japan. Why we would sell rice to Japan when they got rice just falling out the sky like rain, pretty much, I don't know. But they want us to be happy about that. So you can go ahead on the surface, be happy about that so that they feel that they've done their job as far as convincing you to be happy about some bullshit. But I'm going to tell you the realness about what's really been going on. Industry, AI data centers, fossil fuels, pollution, climate change, okay? The story started as me digging into historical storms and why we've had so many historical floods in the last 5 years. And after doing a bunch of digging, because they never will admit to climate change per se, but what we can see is that our climate has been changed and we have been basically screwing up the earth, okay? So I'm bringing you a story that some of y'all may know about, but the way that the media works, it's not local. It's a story about a particular segment of space in Louisiana, also dubbed Cancer Alley. And it's not because a bunch of people that live there are of the zodiac sign Cancer. It is because it's 85 miles of over 200 different refining and fueling plants, from energy plants to AI stuff to alumina refining, you name it. Petrol, everything. It's all in one stretch of land, all close to the Mississippi River that has been contaminated a couple of times and harmed the people around it. And this is where that money is going, is into building more on those industries, but including AI. That's why I don't want you to forget drill, baby, drill. Don't forget that, because that's part of this. That's why they've been trying to keep China from buying certain lands in America, is because they were planning on adding industrial spaces that are coordinated between Japan and the United States and not China and the United States. So I'm going to bring you a story about Cancer Alley, because a lot of y'all don't even know about it. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we forget that our price of convenience is sometimes somebody else's nightmare. And that nightmare is like, it's a real thing. And the petrochemical industry is just part of it, but there's also aluminum refining. There's also, and this thing goes bigger. I'm not going to be able to cover it all in this episode, so I'm just going to go through this one piece. But I need you to understand that what Japan just invested in was adding to pollutants and hazardous situations and materials and emissions in America. They don't want to do it over there because they already got pollution issues. So they want to do it over here. They're not going to just give the U.S. $550 billion as a gift. This is a business investment. That means there's a kickback. That means that they feel that they're going to get a return on that investment. And when you expect a return on $550 billion, imagine what the return is. Got to be trillions, right? What are those trillions coming from? AI infrastructure and fuel refining and production. So let me tell you what the cost of that is going to be. Thank you guys for coming in. Make sure that you hit the like button, please. I know we get so pulled into the stories, we forget. We all have a duty here, okay? I present the information in the news. You guys hit the like button and chat, all that kind of shit. And granted, this Cancer Alley in Louisiana is not the only one, but this story started when I was talking about Wilmington, Delaware, and some areas in Pennsylvania, like Chester and some of those areas. Some people don't know these areas, but there was a high spike in cancers among people that didn't have the lifestyle that would normally bode those kind of cancers, like people getting lung cancer that don't smoke, you know, that kind of stuff. So, or people getting cancerous growths in their necks, and nobody could really explain where it came from. It all came from our chemical plant. So let's bring it over. Shouts to Human Rights Watch for the video here.
Our lot in life is to intercede for Louisiana. Swallow all the spit, slime, vomit, and despair that comes to us on barges down the long spine of Mother River. We must pray ceaseless, silent prayers, lifting up our suffering in a chalice of baked Mississippi mud. We brush our teeth with dead oil and flush our guts with sulfur dioxide that we might be a worthy sacrifice.
Growing up in St. James, you had everything. You had your foods and you had gardens. You walk outside, take a deep breath of the clean air, and you wouldn't get sick. You can't do that today. You might take a deep breath of chemicals. When the first plant came, everybody was excited. My daddy would talk about it, and he said, we're going to have jobs, and they were glad for jobs. But they didn't know the other side of industry coming in here. Most of the jobs now are for people that's not local.
When I was younger, we'd play outside. We'd smell a smell, but we thought it was just normal and natural.
They've been smelling it for years.
And you realize it's not just the smells. It's dangerous. And nobody's doing anything about it. Every one of my siblings, children, had bronchitis, eczema, upper respiratory infections, and asthma. All of our children did. That's not normal.
I've been living here in Reserve all my life. By the time we got to the 90s, our families as a whole, and even my family. My mother died of some rare kind of cancer that we never heard of, and people that I grew up with, you know, they began to question the number of cancer deaths. The people here, culturally, they consider cancer a stigma. They don't like to talk about it. They keep it secret. And when my wife was diagnosed with cancer, that's when I really began to see it, because she didn't hide it.
When I came out in 2016 saying that I was a cancer victim, I didn't realize that we had so many young people in this area had cancer, and older people. It was like they're afraid to say.
I first heard the term Cancer Alley when I went to college. I thought, oh my God, this makes so much sense, and it completely defines what we've been dealing with in this area for quite some time. Cancer Alley is, by definition, the long stretch between Baton Rouge and New Orleans that is filled with fossil fuel and petrochemical industry. If you just look at a map where the plantations once existed, or is now majority Black and brown population along that same line, it's also the similar map of the petrochemical industries and the build-out.
I never really.
Interesting. So where the industries are now are old plantations. That means there's probably some bodies under. Probably dug.
Associated the industries with our illnesses, but I do know people started dying so fast, and we had one person died 1 week. Sometimes we had 2 in 1 week. Sometimes we had 3.
When I started learning more about what these chemicals are doing to our bodies, and that there was a connection between the chemicals that are in our water and in the air, and that those chemicals can cause miscarriages and infertility issues, that's when I started realizing, okay, this may have contributed to my miscarriage.
I feel like it's a death sentence. It's like we're being cremated, but not being burnt, but being polluted, dying from inhaling the industries, going into our bodies, going into our nostrils.
I began researching Cancer Alley in late 2018. We looked across Louisiana and we found that where you have more pollution, you have more cancer.
Okay, well, then
what happens in Louisiana and along Cancer Alley is that we transport the fossil fuels, the oil, from all over the world. And what happens as part of that refining process of refining a fossil fuel or refining oil into gas is that there's a ton of pollution created.
Now, note, this is about fossil fuels specifically, but understand our AI data centers fall under the same kind of problem. Just like, I did that story, I want to say it was a few weeks ago, about some people having a similar issue, and they had an AI data center there that was pushing out a bunch of pollution using diesel fuel to keep the place cool. And that's what they use to do it in general. So anywhere there's an AI data center, they use diesel fuel, which y'all know diesel fuel stank.
The approach that DEQ and industry has taken is to simply try to point to a map and say, oh, well, there's some places where the cancer rates are lower, and we don't see cancer across the entire area at rates that are higher than the state average. That's not the question, right? The question is, are people who are exposed to cancer-causing pollution developing cancer at higher rates in those communities? And absolutely the data support that, yes, in Louisiana, places where you have more industrial pollution, you have higher cancer rates.
The industry is expanding on both sides of us, so we're almost sandwiched in between, and we make a sacrifice here in Donaldsonville. I'm a mother of 3 kids, 1 girl, that's my older child, and I have a set of twins, a boy and a girl. All 3 of my babies was preterm deliveries. And underweight babies. My son born with only 1 developed strong lung. The doctor did not have faith that that twin would live to make it with the other twin.
We know that Louisiana has a really high rate of adverse birth outcomes, but what we found was...
All right, so we got birth defects, we got cancer, we got people getting random cancers. We have news stories about it, but what we don't have is anybody trying to make a change. What happened to the EPA? You remember EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency? Notice the first word of EPA is environmental. They're supposed to be protecting the environment. And the environment is where the people live. So if the people are getting sick, that means the EPA ain't doing their job. That's what that means. And we're about to just add more of this to an existing situation. And I'm going to tell you what will happen. Because right now, it seems like all of these plants and stuff, they're all in these low-income areas. And I guess maybe it's because the property value is lower or something. I don't know. What I do know is the second that shit starts coming out to those higher class areas and it starts to smell like ass butt all day, then we can make the change. Because from what I've studied, the pollution that we are seeing doesn't have to be there. There's like options, but they cost money. And the industries are like, you know, we're not going to put that money into it, even though there's an option that could not harm the people that live around here. Forget those people. We got aluminum to refine, or alumina to refine. We have, you know, gasoline and oil to refine. And so here's my question. It's like, well, who's going to look out for those people? Or are they just going to let them pass away? I think that's what they're trying to do. Just, they'll pass away eventually and they won't be a problem. It'll be a new generation. Nobody cares about these people. The same way nobody cares about the kids in Gaza. And if we can't get people to care about actual American people, then I don't see how we're going to get them to care about people in the foreign land, or why we get them to care about people in the foreign land, where they're willing to stand up, do protests, and do all types of stuff, but they don't try to regulate these industries and help these communities out that are literally just being unalived silently, not because they've done something wrong, but because they chose to live in a nice, what would have been a nice place in Louisiana. And it's not just Louisiana, it's just Louisiana is known for it because of this long stretch of fuck y'all. Because that's what 85 miles of refining is whoever lives around here, y'all are done. It's going to smell. It's going to be stuff in the water. They've already had multiple lawsuits about things leaking into the water. You guys remember when they had a problem up in Flint, Michigan, where something leaked into the water. The water gets contaminated. It takes 10 years to get that water to be drinkable again. And in Louisiana, because it's close to a major river like Mississippi River, they probably have a lot of groundwater that's going through. And the groundwater is what's getting contaminated. So now you're bathing in it. You're brushing your teeth with oily water. Imagine that. You're brushing your teeth and you could feel and taste oil in the water. But nobody cares about that shit. Not at all. Nope, we got $550 billion though. We're going to build some more shit. Who cares who lives around there? And who cares that they could correct the problem, but they just don't want to invest in it? It's because the federal government hasn't forced it. The EPA is not even doing studies about these people. These are news stories. I done seen 5, 6, 7 different news stories about this same problem, but I never hear about it on the main stage. When they're yelling drill, baby, drill, nobody's yelling about what about the people that are unalive right next to those plants? Can we put the right protections in place? Can we use proper fuels and energy sources, renewable energy sources like solar power? Why are we using diesel fuel? You see what I'm saying? When we don't have to. See, it'd be different because, you know, me, I look into shit. And I said, okay, I get it. These industries are polluting. People are getting hurt. All right. But what's the option? Like, can we still have those industries? Can we still have gasoline? Can we still have aluminum? Can we still have steel without doing this to the people that live in the close areas? And the answer was yes. And there was plenty of options around it. So it's literally because nobody cares, they're not going to do nothing about it. And I'm going to let this finish out, but I just need y'all to hear that. It is not about the money. It's about the people that nobody cares about, that have been going through this since, according to the research I've done, this shit started like back in the 50s and 60s. And it just took years before people noticed, hey, all these people are dying from cancer. That's a little weird. So now here we are, you know, what, 40 or 50, 60 years later, these industries are just anchored into the ground in these places. There's no way you're going to get them to move. So the only thing you can do is get them to clean up their act. And the one organization that's supposed to be dealing with that is refusing to do the studies. Refusing to do the studies. Like, instead of, hey, we're going to be doing a study about how many people got cancer in this area, they literally are refusing to do the study so that they don't prove what we already know, which is our industries are taking us out. It's the price of our convenience and having the things that we have. We're sacrificing a segment of our population and not even caring about them. I bet they don't get free health care over there. I think those industries should be paying for everybody's rehabs, everybody's health care in that area. With the kind of money that they make off of these things yearly, they need to be taking care of them people out there. But we don't care. We don't care about these people. But I'll play the story. And I'm only saying we don't care in that way because that's the grand sense. I care, which is why it's on my show. But me personally, I wanted to go do an interview with some folks down there. I was like, well, I don't want to go down there and breathe that shit in. So it's going to be virtual. I'm going to be working on that one through Zoom. But I think we should build more awareness for things that are locally a problem. The federal government, they got their own thing going on over there. Trump got his own thing going on over there. Obama, all of them. They got their own thing going on over there. Meanwhile, while they're in, Congress voting on whether or not to release the Epstein files, we've got people with birth defects, stillborn children, cancers that they can't explain, and it's only getting worse. And nobody cares. The news cares. I'll say this. PBS cared. Vice News cared. And CNN cared. Apparently. CNN cared a couple years ago, just from the research. So there's been at least 3 stories about this problem, but there's been absolutely no changes. And since then, there have been multiple lawsuits based on things leaking into the water in these areas and people dying. And ain't nobody talking about that. So if we're going to invest $550 billion into our infrastructure and industry, we need to invest it in making sure that it's clean and renewable energy sources so it's not continuing to kill the people that live around it. But we don't care about it. We don't care at all.
Is that pollution is a really big factor. Pollution is causing health problems above and beyond cancer. Our study provides more evidence that people who are living close to petrochemical plants in the area known as Cancer Alley, who are exposed to hazardous air pollution, are more likely to have babies that have low birth weight or deliver those babies preterm. Low birth weight and preterm birth are associated with health problems that can persist into adulthood.
My son actually went to school about 2 miles from the industry, and the air quality caused him not to be able to participate in recess because he would have so many asthma attacks. He would describe it as pinching your nose and trying to suck through or breathe through a coffee straw.
Wow.
I had asthma my entire life. It does limit a lot of what I can do. But I still try and make sure that I can, run up behind my kids, especially my 5-year-old. I grew up.
Now, in all honesty, I'm going to be real. They could move. They could move. But if you spent generations in an area, a lot of times you have a little bit of loyalty to it. So they could move, though. That could happen. So. Not saying that it's easy, but I'm just saying you're not stuck there. This is America.
Just
you
last
could
year,
go
my husband and
somewhere.
I experienced a miscarriage. That was right after the abortion ban in the state of Louisiana. A great deal of the hospitals were turning us away. I spent a lot of time trying to understand why so many women, and myself included, were experiencing miscarriages. Complete strangers that look like me, that live in this region, have said, I've experienced that multiple times. And then, of course, came back to Cancer Alley being one of the reasons. I think our state is going to have to take a hard look in the mirror and understand that we can't keep saying yes to industry as is.
When I look back over the years, we're still at the bottom of everything.
Don't nobody care
It's black people who are suffering the brunt of all the ill effects of this petrochemical industry. We don't benefit anything from that.
We are the sacrifice zone. We mean nothing at all. What they would like is for all of us to move, for them to buy us out. We die out, or they try to buy us out. So every bit of this beautiful river road is industrial.
All right. Y'all get it. So we're about to invest in more of this shit, basically. That's where that 550. And I'm asking the question, who is going to come to the aid of the people who live in the areas where this shit is about to go down? Who is it going to be? Let me bring it full screen here, because I got to talk to y'all. And no, I'm not done with this cancer rally thing. It's just I don't have time today. But I got time. And I'm going to be digging into this. Because it's kind of like, where's our outrage for real people? And I don't want to take the easy way out and say, oh, it's because they're black or whatever. No, it's because we don't care about people in general. As a general sentiment, we don't care. That's why we don't care about them Gaza kids. That's why ain't nobody talking about that. You can't talk about it, actually. But I saw a video the other day that literally disturbed me. And I don't get disturbed by much. I like horror movies, all types of stuff. It disturbed me. And then I realized people don't care. Because if they did, all of the energy that we've been using to get dudes and women's sports and all that bullshit would be effectively more effective in these places. But ain't nobody going down there. Ain't nobody trying to breathe in that stuff. Ain't nobody trying to come to the aid of the black people that live there. They're like, hey, you on your own. That's your spot. You're on your own. And that's a damn shame, man. That is a crying shame that we could be so desensitized and so distracted by what our mainstream media wants to show us that we forget that everywhere that we're putting this kind of stuff, there's a community around it. For some reason, they always buy the shit next to the hood or a lower income community. Because honestly, some of these houses they were showing didn't look too bad. So I don't know what low income area they living in. But those are some pretty good houses. But nonetheless, I think we need to just take a step back, guys. Because they're going to have us over here worrying about the freaking Epstein files and worrying about Obama and whether or not he used the whole fake news to give out fake news. You know, it was a conspiracy theory that went global. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen? You really think Barack Obama is going to get perp walked? You really think Hillary Clinton is going to get perp walked? No. At the most, they'll admonish him in the Senate or something, or make him put out a statement. But other than that, it's not going to be anything. So we need to stop being distracted by that and realize the implication of what is actually happening and how it's going to actually affect people that live here. Like I said, the automotive industry selling cars in Japan was a better deal for Japan than it was for automotive makers here in America. It's supposed to be America first. First. So first, we need to bring down the cost of making an American-made car. Our cars are too damn expensive to have been made in America. That's why people buy Japanese and stuff like that. Because it's a cheaper car and it gets better gas mileage. So please explain to me how something that's domestically assembled and created costs more than something that's shipping thousands of miles from overseas. Well, truth be told, we have plants here. So they'll have Japanese car plants here in America, and they'll be building Japanese cars in America, and they won't have to pay the tariff because the car is being assembled here in America. So the tariff would have to be paid on parts, and if the parts are coming from Japan, they're going to get that 15% tariff. Meanwhile, automotive makers in America are paying a 25% tariff to get things from Canada and Mexico. So the deal is shoddy at best, okay, when it comes to the American side of it. Now, if you're in the tech sector, if you're in the big business, if you're into investment, if you're into creating like some buildings and having some, random offices for sale, oh yeah, that industry is going to be great because they're going to need to hire some people to work in these plants and in these AI industries. They have whole cities being built around AI data centers. Whole cities. If you haven't noticed, the whole game is about to change. And I just don't want us to be so involved in the changing of the game that we forget about those who've been stuck in this game before us and have been suffering over and over and over again. So, like I said, I'm not done with Cancer Rally. I'm just done with it today. But we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that because there's some world ties, and it seems like it's the same around the world. Just like the goofiness of the Buddhist monks being tempted earlier. We would think it's just American religious leaders that have these kind of issues. No, it's a world problem. We got some real world problems going on. Got some real world problems going on. Please do not get pulled into that Epstein shit too far. Because whatever comes out of it is going to be up to Pam Bondi, who right now, I don't really think she's going to get anybody in trouble. I think we need to be focused on that Japan deal. That's major. Because it says, Japan, y'all about to put stuff in our country to avoid the shipping of it. So it might create jobs. It might. But it also will create industry. And if these industries are not properly regulated, which is another reason why they want to build shit over here, is because we're normally supposed to be a little more strict, or we're supposed to be less strict on these regulations. That's why Trump removed those Biden-era regulations from the EPA. And he's been removing these regulatory organizations. And he's also placed a 10-year no-touch on AI legislation so that they can just see where this is going to go. It'll either be a mess, it might be great, we don't know, but we don't want to put any brakes on it early. And I'm not saying we, I'm saying this is what he's thinking. Let's not put brakes on it too soon because we don't know how beautiful of a thing this can be or how detrimental. We can't do a recall without testing out the product. So, nonetheless, I want to thank y'all for stopping in with me on a Thursday. I want to give a special RIP shout to Hulk Hogan, who apparently recently passed away, and another RIP shout out to Malcolm Jamal Warner, who recently passed away. So we've been losing some icons from my childhood. And kind of sad because the world is not a better place without some of these guys. We enjoyed and still enjoy some of these people on TV and things like that. So it's my condolences to the family and all of the fans of those people. I know you guys have been grieving on that lately, but it's just, when are we going to start being honest about what we're looking at? Don't let the mainstream media just keep telling you what the hell they want you to hear. Look at it, and then let's dig another step down. Say, what are they not telling me? What are they not mentioning? What are they forgetting about? Or maybe it's a crime of omission. It's not necessarily they're lying. They just won't say it. So it's up to us to purge the bullshit. That's why we're here. So letting y'all know, yes, on the surface, that $550 billion deal that Trump just made, awesome deal on the surface. In the weeds, gets a little dangerous. There's not a lot of specific context as to where the money's going, what it's going to do, but we do know AI and semiconductors were the two things that were specifically mentioned. And we all know that the factories that make these things and produce these things or house these things are dangerous to the communities that surround them. So if we're not going to put new regulations up, maybe we shouldn't be putting new buildings up that need to be regulated. And if they're refusing to do that, I know why it is. It's because they don't care. They don't care about them people. None of them people in that video I just showed you, they don't care about none of them at all. They don't care. Especially the older ones. They're like, you about to get out of here anyway. So speaking of getting, oh yeah, one more. And Ozzy Osbourne passed away. All this week. All within this week. Within the last week. That's a lot of this, a certain generation icons just disappearing and not coming back. And we don't know when our time is going to come. So while we're here, we got to make the best of it. And sometimes making the best of it is making it better for someone else and not just yourself. Because we're not part of the generation me. We are part of generation we, where we all live here. We all can make a change. We all can stop this shit. But we are not all together. And if we don't get it together, we're never gonna stop none of this. We're just gonna be in the way. And they'll eventually try to move us out the way like they did them people in the Cancer Alley thing. Do you want to be next to be moved out of the way? Or you want to be the person moving the bullshit out the way? I choose to be the one moving the bullshit out. Hope that the Purge Collective is the same. Speaking of which, I got to give my shout outs because I got to get out of here. But Al Bond, thank you for stopping in. That's my sergeant at arms, always keeping it cool. I think on the next one, I may open up the chat all the way. Anybody can come in. If they want to come up, they might have to send a super chat, and I can bring them up. We'll do the call-in show that I've been talking about doing for a while. It's just I haven't found anybody that's really trying to talk about nothing. So it hasn't happened. But special shouts to Al Bond. Always good to have you here. Who else was in here? Purple Groovy, thank you for stopping in. I Love Big Women stopped in. Who else do we have? IMZ was in the building. We had a couple of, who was the other person that stopped in? I gotta check my other. Who's the other one? There was one specific one I caught and missed. All right, I can't see it now. Oh, Adrian Kennedy. That's who it was. Adrian Kennedy was the one that initially told us about the Hulk Hogan situation. So just know that this thing is about to change. We can play games with thinking that it's all going to be cinema the whole time, but there's real world effects are about to happen because Japan going to want their money back. They're not investing $550 billion just to talk about it. Something's going to get built. We're not going to own it. It's going to be in areas that are easy to purchase, which is normally lower income areas, and it's going to disproportionately affect those lower income communities. It is what it is. So if you like that and you're fine with that, that's fine. Keep acting like you don't care. Continue with your life. If you do care, now's the time to start ramping up your information set. Start actually paying attention to what the hell's going on. Because now honeymoon period's over. Now real shit is getting voted in. Now real things are about to happen. So the honeymoon period is over. Let's stop with the BS. If the Epstein list comes out, great. If it doesn't, do not let it kill your life because there are far more important things going on in this world. Eventually, we're going to talk about Gaza. I talked about it months ago and got in trouble. That's why I haven't said nothing about it in quite some time. But I'm telling y'all, I saw something that bothered me to the core, and if I don't say nothing about it, I will be doing a disservice to my people. And shouts to IMZ. I'm sorry, baby, I forgot about you. You were actually the first one in here. So IMZ, you get the special gong and explosion just for you. And a boom. I can't hear. There we go. There's your explosion. So with that, guys, I got some shit to do, but I'm telling you right now, pay attention to the realness because it's out there. You just got to dig through the bullshit first in order to find it. So I'm not sure if we're going to be doing a Saturday show. I got to travel this weekend. I'll try. But if not, it'll be next week. And I'm sure there will be no scarcity of bullshit to cover by then. Doing it every 2 days, I don't even have enough time to cover everything that's on the plate. So I can only imagine what 4 days or 5 days. But if you are not back here for the Tuesday show, you know what it is. That, my friends, would definitely be the bullshit. We out.